Alright, people, what's up? Right, I have some updates. Obon is good. It's out and alive. Though we're currently lacking in members, but it's out, and that's all that matters. Now, my short story collection, Remedies for Forgetfulness, remember that, has 7 stories now. 4 of them I've written for literary magazines. They're all about the human experience. One of my favorites is this one called Inheritance, where it talks about an android housekeeper slowly gaining sentience to protect its slumbering master, set on the backdrop of an ecological apocalypse. Nice. Updates on the dossiers of the Vixie. Willard's line is slowly building to its climax. Theodore's line is somewhat to its climax, and I'm currently working on the climax for Adrian's chapter. Essentially, what I have right now is that all 3 of them are too passive. I used family and personal growth to spur Willard's activeness. Now I'm going to use the death of a loved one to spur Adrian's. Nice, I just love killing off characters. Now then, here's an excerpt from one of Willard's chapters that I'm really proud of. I feel like I did a great job in characterization here. It was the 4th time Steve passed him, but it felt like the first. Actually, it felt even faster than the first. Hey, get a grip, Antaik! He taunted with no real mockery behind his voice as he turned to face him. You'll miss breakfast at this rate. The sun blasted its venomous rays down upon the rubber tracks. The scarlet runways paired with the white marking lines, making them look like large pieces of bacon grilling on an oil stove. Well, it certainly felt like he was being grilled from the inside out. How many laughs was it? He struggled to steady his breath, bent over, hands on his knees. Looking back, he saw the tiny figures of Enya and Davil, growing larger as they came up upon them. Soon they'll pass him for the 3rd time. Willard wondered how Enya's small stature could fare equal in the test of endurance against someone as large as Davil. But then again, there was Steve. Ceretians will always be the outliers when it comes to physical exertions, it seems. 26. He squatted in front of him. You're almost halfway there. Yeah. He gritted his teeth. Get going now, I can't talk. He stared at the Ceretian who had hardly broken a sweat. What a monster. Steve shrugged and returned to his seemingly effortless jog. Willard watched him for a while, then turned again towards the 2 heading towards him. Muttering a silent curse, he forced his legs to move forward once more. They were going to catch up on him, inevitably, and quite soon at that, but he at least needed to make a gesture of effort. On his 40th step, the 2 passed him, one on either side. Davil wore no expression on his face, as if Willard didn't exist, while Enya glanced back and stuck out her tongue. She must have missed a step, for pain flashed through her face the very next instant, as the teeth sank into her tongue, and she jerked her head back. Willard looked at the sweat that the 2 had shed, at the little red patches on the scarlet ground. I need a drink, he thought as he shuffled forward with all his might. He was 2 weeks into the program. Every morning there'd be drills. Whether it's physical fitness or strength building, he'd always come last, taking too much time and missing breakfast most of the time. He never understood why people would think exercising on an empty stomach would be good. All one will be burning would be their lives, and he had burnt enough of that already. He wondered what Adrian would think of his present state, a mess, drenched in sweat and lagging behind the team. The track was only 400 meters long, circling 2 of the 6 buildings he had a cadet corps headquarters. But 50 laps, 20 kilometers, was still a bit too much for him. His joints ached, his heart pounded, and his head would undoubtedly burst by the time he finished, if he manages to finish at all. There were times during the first week where he had passed out from the laps and had to be carried back on a stretcher. That had made a bad impression on everyone, not just those on his team. He was frail, and he knew that. And then, to make matters worse, there was a sharp pain shot up his throat like a sudden flame with no outlet to release itself, coursing through his veins. He gulped it down and thumped hard on his chest. And then there was that, his bloody condition. From momentary pains on irregular intervals to a guaranteed occurrence every 4 months, then every other, then every one. Now the bigger pains have branched out into smaller, less blood-stained coughs, like the ones he'd just experienced. He had been putting his own mortality aside for a while now, but now he hoped that he'd at least die before getting the chance to graduate. He stared back at the tracks. Nope, you're definitely gonna die before that. He did not, surprisingly, die when he finished his last lap. Instead, he collapsed and rolled over in the grass of the low hills that circled half of the tracks, his eyes pointed at the cerulean sky above. His stomach growled, but he chose to ignore it. There was 10 minutes to the mess hall's closing time, and the walk from the tracks would take 8. He sighed and continued to stare at the cloudless heavens. A long time ago, on a different planet, humans, just like him, had stared into the sky at its spotless blue, and had wondered what lies behind it. Back then there was room to speculate. Now he simply stared at the silhouette of Sibith's second moon. He knew what lay beyond the sky, and couldn't even fool himself to think about it, to daydream about anything else. There was no mystery, and certainly no allure. In some respects, the radiant sky of Bagarik was even more depressing than Sarisu's grey cloud canopy.